Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. I am your host, Miss D. And as you know, here on the show, we get pretty comfortable being uncomfortable. We talk about all the rawness and all the raw mess. Joined every week with some pretty dope friends and guests, we unleash all there is to know on surviving adulthood, and we discuss different topics related to cultures, controversies, sometimes a little bit about love, sometimes even sex. And we definitely oftentimes discuss relationships and relationships. Join me. We have juicy conversations, friendly debates, and sometimes intriguing discussions. So thank you for joining us on another episode, and I hope you enjoy the show. We are recording. I'm not a singer, but sometimes I think I am in the shower. Okay, so here we are again on this week's episode of Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. I am your host, Misty. And y'all, let me just start with this. Episode number 17. This is what you guys are tuning into. So here's a fun fact. For some reason, number 17 is my favorite. Don't ask me why. It's just one of my favorite numbers. And so I wanted to make this a very present episode. And what better way to do that than to let you guys in on a little piece of my heart? And that means you guys are going to get to hear from my family. And we're a little crazy. So with that being said, I introduce to you guys, to the world, the Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast world, my cousins who are newlyweds. I'm not going to do a drum roll because people said it sounds like shit, but please introduce yourselves to my audience.
Yeah, I am Marco. I'm Daisy's cousin, and I've been her cousin my whole life. No I'm kidding. But yeah, I'm her cousin, and go ahead, Marco.
And I'm Michael, and I am Marco's husband as of Saturday. And so I guess I'm Daisy's cousin as of Saturday.
Yes. Well, he's been my cousin longer than that. This is the thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Legally.
Legally, right? Legally,
Yeah.
he's my cousin as of Saturday. But if anybody knows me, you know that once you're in my cousin's life, like you're my cousin too. That's just how I roll. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is my cousin Marco and his husband Michael, and they just got married, and I am so happy for you guys. I zoomed in the wedding, you know, because COVID definitely turned life upside down for all of us. And it was still nice to see you guys celebrate your coming together as one. It was nice for us to be able to zoom into it. Y'all know I've been telling y'all I could cry at the drop of a pin, and that's exactly what the fuck I did on Saturday while I was eating some steak in the backyard. But talk to me about it. I'm definitely going to dive into a few things that I'm present with, guys. I'm going to share it with you guys because I'm just present with it. Present is a very nice word for me to say that I'm pissed, but I'm present with it, okay? But before I do, how do you guys feel? How has these days been in the beginning of your official legal union?
It's been great. It's what I think Michael and I have talked about the most is because the wedding happened. Michael's family came in last week Wednesday, and we spent a couple of days with them. And that was great. We had a dinner for just his parents and my parents and our siblings on Friday. And that was a really beautiful segue into the wedding on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Saturday was just, it was surreal. It was just like you're just numb. You're just, it hit me when I started putting my clothes on. Like we were preparing all day because we did have to host it in our home because COVID did ruin the big wedding we had planned. But we had to we put our families to work. We're like, we're not doing shit today. You guys are gonna build everything. This is how we want it, and we're gonna go get dressed.
Yes.
And and they did. They were more than happy to. And once I started putting on my clothes, and it was like half an hour before the ceremony, people were starting to get here.
Yeah.
We were tucked away. We have a 2-bedroom. He was in one room. I was in another. And when it started, my brother started helping me because he's my best man. And me and my brother were like, don't cry, not yet. Don't cry, not yet. And Brian was sobbing. He's gonna be so mad I said this, but Brian was just sobbing while he was getting me ready. I'm like, shut up! I have makeup on.
For me, it didn't hit until we were in the middle of the ceremony.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a part in the ceremony where a friend of mine read a poem that we had chosen together. Mm-hmm. And about halfway through their reading of the poem, I had this weird feeling. It was like something clicked. And all of a sudden, Marco and I and our siblings who are our best people and our officiants and Kat and Brian, who was singing a song, and Kevin was reading poems. Like everybody was involved in the ceremonial part of it. Yeah. It was like all of a sudden we were doing something a little bit different than everyone else in the room. Yeah. It was like we entered into this other space where we were doing something like kind of like holy and like sacred and different, and everybody else was watching us do it. Mm-hmm. And coming out of it, it was the weirdest feeling. Like someone said, "Do you feel married?" And the question, like it sounds like when you like have a birthday, someone's like, "Oh, do you feel 25?" But like I was able to look at them and I was like, "Yes, yes, I feel married." I don't know what it means to feel married, but I feel married.
Yeah, I think that was what it was for me too, because people kept asking me, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Married." And I think, and it was supposed to be funny, but I think it was the only word to name that unique feeling.
Yeah.
It was a really, really unique feeling, and I like what Michael and I, to circle back, what we agreed, because the next day we did have a honeymoon suite, and what we did was just talk from like sundown to sunrise, and one thing we kept going back on was like we were so pleasantly surprised and touched of how many people look up to our relationship. Mm-hmm. And speeches, the family speeches, the way people cried, all the comments all night, and the way we partied afterward. And we'll party just the same days.
I know we will. I know we will.
But it was magic. It was like we were making magic in our home, and it was really beautiful. And that was part of our pre-marital wedding nerves. We also talked about was like most people, they feel cold feet, but it wasn't about being scared about getting married. It was being scared of like, is everyone gonna be on the same vibe that we're gonna be? Yeah. And they were, and that was really eye-opening and the most beautiful part of the whole thing for both. I think,
yeah. So for me, as they're already saying this, and it's funny, he goes, "We will party, Daisy." I'm already getting teary-eyed, and y'all already know I cry from one eye only, and then I like bawl out. So like the tear already started coming out, and it's because again, I'm letting you guys in on a present moment, and a very huge but yet little piece of my heart, because my heart is like broken up into all family members. And if you could ever have a VHS available, I will pop in a VHS and show you what our family wedding parties look like. Mm-hmm. And, to be able to zoom in, it's great, but I get it. It was so refreshing to see your aunt, my cousin, the next wedding we're hoping COVID does not ruin, which is in 2 months, to see her dancing with your mom. Because it's exactly what we would have been doing. We've been yearning to be around family, to be able to celebrate together these moments, because, and my audience know this, very briefly, we have suffered tremendous loss because of COVID. And so we were looking forward to this, and I'm a sucker for love. I love love. I've said this multiple times. I love seeing people in love. I love people loving each other. Like, I am the crier at a wedding, which is why I need effective makeup, because my fucking makeup will get ruined. But I just love it. I love it. And to see you guys, come together as newlyweds to feel married. I have to ask you guys, this is Raw Talk. And I told you guys, I didn't even think like, we are in Pride Month. Did you purposely pick for June? Because
okay.
That's what I definitely.
The original plan was to get married. Well, and I mean, this, right? There was going to be like a 200-person wedding on June 20th. And the original thinking behind June 20th is like we were going to go to Pride the next week, and we were going to just be like, we just got back from our honeymoon. Hello, gays. We're married gays. It was good to see you.
Yes.
And I guess we'll still go to the Queer Liberation March next weekend and stunt there. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Pride was canceled, but there is the Queer Liberation March that happens every year too, that most people don't know about. And that's still happening because it's mostly a protest. So we will be there.
You will be there. Oh, well, when exactly is, see, like, here we go. That's actually something I didn't know is in existence because I've always just paid attention to the Pride Parade.
Yeah, it kind of originated in terms to keep what Pride originally was, which was a protest. It was a riot against police brutality. Yes. Ring, ring, ring. And and people seem to forget that because now it's a big party, which is a beautiful thing. But the Queer Liberation March is really about preserving what it really was, and still have a long way to go, because even though a lot of gay queer people have rights, and it's mostly preserved for gay people and lesbian people attracted to the same sex and present in a cis way, which is the opposite word for trans. Right. So there's still a lot of work to be done for the trans community. There's still a lot of work to be done. And it also preserves the fact that this whole movement started, and Pride wouldn't even exist without specifically two trans women of color, a Latina and a Black woman. So it's really, that's what the Queer Liberation March is. So we're definitely going to march on that, because without that, we wouldn't have been able to get married.
Yes. No, absolutely. And so before we dive into that, because we did briefly touch on what we're going to talk about.
Sorry.
No, and it's okay. Like I said, I'm having a present moment. So, this is my cousin and I haven't been able to chat with my family much. But again, going back to before we dive in, because y'all know Raw Talk, we dive in real deep. I wanted to just put it out there to my audience. I have been giving them a few updates here and there, but then of course I'll share with you guys because you're my cousins and you guys know I blurt everything out and I have absolutely no filter. So for one, let's begin with the fact, because if I'm correct, we were supposed to go to Vegas, correct?
Yeah, for Christina, for sure.
Christina. Yeah. Okay. So I'm present with the fact that COVID has once again striked and we have to cancel Vegas. So again, my cousin, Marco's aunt was supposed to get married in August. Well, she will be getting married. I mean, the wedding is supposed to happen in August and we were supposed to go to Vegas in July. And now we have to cancel. So I'm feeling some type of way about that. I need to let this out and get this off my chest because I have shopped for Vegas and Jamaica. And, I've already postponed Jamaica and that's supposed to be in August too. And COVID is just fucking up our lives. I actually have to go on the line today and fight for my refund for the Vegas flight. Because I tried to do that the other day and I was on hold for like 3 hours and I just had to get off because I was getting irate. But the point is, I'm just fucking pissed. I see how we're trying to make the best of it all. We're still trying to find the meaning in celebrations and we're still trying to find a piece of normalcy. And the other thing that I don't know if you guys know this. I know, from a personal standpoint, we do follow each other on social media, but I am part of essential workers. I work in the hospital, and now we're diving into phase 2 this week of New York City opening back up. I want to touch a little bit on that. How are you guys doing with the phasing in? And, Vegas is gone for now. How are we doing with that?
Well, I actually have something to say about all of that, which is, I think that when we realized a few months ago that we had to cancel our wedding, postpone our wedding. Yeah. The immediate desire was to be, disappointed and frustrated and angry, and it's tough to be frustrated and angry at something like a virus because it can't, it's abstract. It's like I can't really be mad at the pandemic. And I think that one of the ways that we have really worked through that together is by thinking about our lives right now in these extraordinary circumstances and reminding ourselves that at some point this is all going to be a story, right? A story that we tell to our kids, a story that we tell to our friends, a story that I tell to my students, right? And so we when we had to send out change the date cards and stuff, we found a way to make it funny and we found a way to make it fun. Yeah. And even throwing a wedding in our living room, was unexpectedly a blessing. Yeah. It was something we would never have been able to do otherwise, and something that other people are probably never going to do again. It was in 2020 that all those poor people had to throw weddings in their living room. Yeah. And so I think that sometimes when I'm it sounds kind of trite or cliche to be like, like look for the silver lining. But I've been finding that if I think about like what's the way you want to act now so that you can tell this story with a smile and a chuckle in 10 years, right? How do you comport yourself in this moment so that when you look back on it, you're proud of yourself? Has been like a thing that's really made it more meaningful for me. I've been able to squeeze more meaning out of COVID that way than by simply, sort of dwelling on the things that we can't do.
Right.
Yeah, and I was definitely disappointed when we had to make the decision. It was in April. We were pushing back to see what's gonna happen, and I remember just wanting to cry because I was just like, we planned this whole thing because wedding planning is no fucking joke. Right. Especially for we wanted 120, but our guest list was like 200, and
typical.
And it was just like, yeah, it is just like all this planning, and then when we sat down and we decided to postpone, and like when we got the change of dates that say COVID on them, we're gonna keep them forever and show everyone that this was part of the pandemic.
Right.
And those were the moments that we're like really working, like, or really are like, it's gonna be a fun story. And then when we said we still want to be married that day because that day was important, the week before Pride, basically a year after we got engaged, we decided to do that and just really make the best of it. So, and that was really a great decision. It was a hard one at first, but like Michael said, like even our mom said it, and your mom said it, Michael's mom said it, is just how beautiful that we get to have two weddings. An intimate one, and next year is going to be just as special in its own different way.
That's right.
But we will never be like, we were so lucky to have a first wedding, and next year to renew our vows in front of everyone.
Yep.
So if anything, we're lucky because we get two.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I love that you bring that to the table of how do we look at this in a positive way. That's definitely something that I've been trying to look at it from. It happens for a reason, which is actually, and I'm going to give her a shout out. That's Christina's famous line. It happens for a reason. We know this. That's Christina. She will be on the show soon, guys. I just have to be careful with her because if anybody knows about our dear Christina, she's crazier than I am. And we got stories for you guys with my cousin Christina. But aside from that, her famous line is, "It happens for a reason." And for me, I think we just know, like, I've been married before and I know what it's like, the wedding planning piece, and I know how meaningful it is to go to your bachelorette and the bridal shower and the bachelor, I just know all those steps, and it has hurt me to see that there's been hiccups and like greater hiccups beyond our control, you know what I mean? For me, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, as an essential worker, and seeing what we've seen when it comes to working in a hospital, you kind of just looking for that silver lining to say, oh my God, it's back to normal. You know what I mean? To be able to even go I will never, ever again in life take for granted going on vacation and getting too drunk to embrace sunlight, to embrace Mother Nature. I will never again get too drunk to be able to appreciate how beautiful life can be. And it's because we've just seen such horrific time here in the city, and it's been hurtful for everyone. So in a sense, to Michael's point and to yours, Marco, I literally sometimes go outside when it's sunset time, and you guys have been to my house. I don't have an open view to see an entire sunset. But there is a little corner where I see it. And I do go downstairs. And even if it is just for those few minutes to see the sun go down, I take it in. And I just embrace it because you know what? Okay, so maybe I can't be at a pool party in Vegas taking in all that sun, but I could still have this. I could still find that little bit of hope somewhere and just know that our time is going to come and we're going to be able to celebrate. We're going to be able to be together and everything's going to be okay. So it's amazing and it's beautiful to even look at it. And hell yeah, I'm totally down for the second wedding. Well, the renewal of the vows, because then I will be prepared to get drunk and party and dance.
No, you'll be on the rooftop, so you'll have the sun.
You'll have so much fun.
And I'm gonna have the sun, guys. You see, this is the stuff I like to look forward to. This is what we need to look forward to and be happy. But I'm not gonna lie, I was upset that once again there's a little bit of a hiccup. Yet at the same token, and I think I told this to Christina, we don't want anybody else getting sick. We don't want anybody else being exposed to things. We want to make sure moving forward we are able to continue celebrating life and still be safe and following the proper rules. With that being said, phasing into normalcy, I am present with this and I'm going to just get it off my chest. I have been commuting to work on the train and now going from phase 1 into phase 2. I am sad to admit that I have seen a few New Yorkers getting on the train without any mask and just being very irresponsible. And so that's where the red flag starts, to go off a little bit. Not the red flag, the red light. And it just kind of like, oh, like, didn't we learn, guys? Didn't we learn? Like, if we're phasing into being normal again, or what our new normal is, let's just be responsible. Let's all take care of each other and take care of yourself. No, this city does not need any more deaths. It just doesn't. We need to stand strong and become stronger. Have you guys noticed anything at all as far as our New York community goes with the phasing into number 2, the phase 2?
Well, up here in we're in like East Harlem. Everyone has pretty much kept like masks are still very necessary to go into stores here. And yesterday we were able to enjoy some of phase 2. We were able to go to a restaurant and outdoor seating.
Okay.
But it was nice to see that they are following the rules in restaurants.
Okay.
They did we're not allowed to have a mask until we sit at our table. Everyone's 6 feet away. So I have definitely in like neighborhoods here, I've seen the rules go, obliged by, but like when I go to like Queens, when I went to see my mom a couple weeks ago, that is a predominantly richer neighborhood. When we walk through the park, it's a funny story. The cab left us. She lives across next to a big park. They left us on the other side, so we had to walk through the park. Okay. And walking through, no one had a mask. People were playing soccer. People were like, and I was like, what? Where am I? Have they not watching the news? And like, it was really, really incredible how like class has something to do with it too.
Yes.
And it and my mom thinks everyone's crazy in her neighborhood. But yeah, it's definitely an area thing. And I'm sure in the subway where it goes through all the neighborhoods, you see it. Yeah.
Well, and it's a national thing too, in terms of the way that class and also race imbricated with class affects the way that people think about protecting their neighbors. My parents live in a suburb of Seattle, and they don't know anyone who's had COVID. Except themselves, they had COVID, but they don't know anyone else who's had COVID. And coming to New York, they both remarked, they were like, "Oh my God, like we can feel the difference in the air."
Right.
Like the level of tension is so much higher, right? Because in their immediate community, people are cared for. There aren't it's very homogenous, and there aren't the kinds of class differentials that we have neighborhood to neighborhood, right? And so they're not seeing mortality spikes among poor communities and among brown and black communities because they're just not seeing that. That's not around them. And when they came to the city and they saw, it's, I think for all of us, it's kind of hard to see that we're a little bit traumatized. I think you can see trauma except in retrospect. But my parents were able to see it. They were like, this, they love New York. They come to New York a lot. And they were like, this is not a New York we recognize.
Right.
And it's just because, people are scared, and understandably so. And I think it really is unsurprising that people who live in lower income neighborhoods care more about their neighbors.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that one. Absolutely. I told you this is raw talk, and my guests are not supposed to hold back on anything. So yeah. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And I do agree with that. I think that's exactly where we see the difference. I see certain behaviors when I arrive to the neighborhood of my job versus certain behaviors where I see close to home. Mm-hmm. And so, that's definitely something that for me personally, if you are standing too close to me and I don't see that mask covering your nose, I'm going to tell you something, because even on a healthcare perspective, I've purposely had nurses, I've asked them to tell me what is it exactly that I need to do to make sure I'm being safe, protecting others and protecting myself and my family. I did not go through all of that to just stand there and see someone be irresponsible, especially if they're really standing close to me. So I think approach is key, and just the levels of communication and just expressing that concern, because I do think there's still people out there who for some strange reason think this was not real. And I don't know how that's possible, but there's a mentality somewhere out there. Yeah. That thinks that. Okay. The last,
believe it or not, I have those like wackos in my family. I have aunts and uncles who honestly believe that COVID is a George Soros, like Barack Obama conspiracy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, to make Donnie Boy look bad. It's really
oh my God.
It's so hard, but yeah.
But are you like me though? Because Marco knows, I like to argue. Everybody in the family says I'm the one that likes to argue. Like, are you like me? Because I argue with people on social media.
I'm the loudmouth of the family, but I'm blocked. I'm disowned, actually, from that whole side of my family.
Okay.
All the Tiki Torch Whites in my family were like, we can't have a day.
Oh, okay. That's probably something, I mean, I shouldn't say it surprises me, because let's just be real. Let's see what's going on in the world still to this day. So let's not even say that's surprising at all. I could totally see that from my family. And Marco, you tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I've always been looked at as the loudmouth. I think I've always been looked at as like, damn, Daisy has like no filter.
Definitely in your immediate family too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Among your siblings, you're like the loud one.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, so Marco can attest. You've seen us argue, all four of us, correct?
Oh, you argue with Patty too. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love this because I tell my listeners all the time, and I don't know if they really believe me.
Oh, you
like,
should see her fight with her sister listeners.
It's terrible. But so I tell my listeners all the time, one day I'm going to record an episode, all four of us here, and it's probably never going to happen all through, because we're probably going to end up fighting on the microphone. So. But I am. Thank you, Margot, for co-signing that, because I want people to know that I'm totally not bullshitting. I can admit that, I'm a little problematic. I am, just a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. And speaking of being problematic, because they're going to have absolutely no filter, there's one last thing I am present with, and I have to reflect on this a little bit. And this is Raw Talk platform for the 50th time. So here it is. I had disclosed it a few episodes ago that my masturbation levels are 7 days a week. And I said it's 2 times a day. That has sadly increased by 50%.
Yeah.
Okay, so has my bottles of wine. I do not know. I do not know how life is going to be for some of us singles, right? Coming back out into post-COVID, and what that's going to look like when it comes to dating or things like that, right? As we're going back into normalcy, and now we're in phase 2, and I don't know where sex falls under which phase, but I think it's important to just bring this to light. I had a friend of mine send me this article, and it was featured on ABC 7, and it says New York City guidelines for safer sex amid pandemic. I'm going to include the link in the show description, because I think it's important for anybody who's.
Oh, I think I've seen one of these. Yeah.
You think it's okay? So let me just say this. Yeah. So let me just say this. Okay. First of all, I feel like I'm looking at CDC guidelines, and I'm a little bit offended with these fucking guidelines. I am. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Okay. The first one, it says, wearing mask, heavy breathing, and panting can spread the virus further. That's a problem. Are you telling me I cannot heavy breathe or pant? What the fuck am I supposed to do the day that I
you just gotta pant into a pillow.
Like
face down, ass up.
Face down, ass up. That happens to be my top 3 position. Okay.
Oh, that's social distancing.
And it is social, right? It is. I'm nowhere near you. Okay. So number 2, this is the one that really got to me. It says avoid kissing. Kissing can easily pass the virus. That's a fucking problem. Now, let me say why. Because while I do like face down, ass up, and I could totally comply with social distancing, I need some mouth action. And I do need a little bit of lips to touch my lips. Okay. This is a problem. I really don't know if I want to follow these rules. And I'm going to be very honest. I know I'm pro being safe and following the guidelines, especially outside. But I just want to come clean on the fact that I don't know if when the time comes for me to, no pun intended on comes, when the time comes, I am going to follow these first 2 guidelines. I'm not even going to read the rest.
I mean, how, for you know, my first thought for like people who are single is like, what do? Like, do you fuck first and then kiss? Like, what? Is it reverse? Like, yeah.
You could. Okay.
This is a very good question.
Yeah. You could kiss to a dental dam. I don't know if that would work because I was kind of a slut in my pre-married life. I've never used a dental dam. But I think it would work.
Oh, yeah.
I may actually try this shit.
Just saran wrap your face.
Saran wrap
it. Little kisses here and then face down, ass up.
Just like a little like thing here.
I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna go like this. Like we're just like,
or just kiss through the mask. I don't know.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out. So I'm not the type of woman who likes to like make out. If I'm with if my man is the type who wants to make out, he can very, very raw talkish. He can make out with my pussy and that's it. We could just leave you there.
That's social distancing.
It is social distancing, right? I mean, okay, so this is making me feel better. I'm so happy I let this out with you guys, and you guys are helping me find ways to come to to these
and that's still like a lip to lip thing, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Very much so. It absolutely is. One of my friends told me, "Oh, Deezy, your top lip is a Cupid's bow." I didn't tell her what the lips down there look like. Her name is Sin, by the way. Some of y'all may have realized that on episode 10. My girl down there, her name is Sin. But Michael's laughing. You don't want to know why I call her Sin.
I know why you call her Sin.
But this is making me feel better. I'm so happy I am able to be present with my family on the shit that's been on my chest, and I just wanted to let it out. So now that we are done with that part, with this therapy session that I've been offered here, I want to dive into, something that, again, I had not planned for this, but I feel like, what better way than to be even more transparent and have the raw talk that needs to be had. Michael, you had offered to discuss some things on the show, and I definitely want to be able to give you the mic on that so we could dive into it, and let's bring it to the audience.
Sure. Before we go there was one CDC guideline that I want to highlight because the queer community loved it so much.
Ooh.
It was one that said that you can receive oral sex through just a hole, like nothing. So it's like the CDC saying it's okay to have a glory hole. And I wasn't expecting that from the government this year.
Not only is it okay, it is preferable to have a
glory hole. And I did not expect the federal government to tell us that, but that is one bright thing from COVID.
It is a bright thing from COVID. Y'all, I told you I'm going to bring y'all gems. This is a gem for y'all. I hope y'all taking notes. This is a gem.
We've been trying to convince the government for many decades that glory holes are a good thing. And they're finally catching on. Yeah.
I think I found the name to this episode.
We walk so the government can run.
That one gets an applause from me. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so happy my audience gets to know who my family is. My heart is like beating because I fucking love my family so much. All right. So give it to us. The mic is over to you.
Well, we both wanted to talk about gay marriage. I think, of course, gay people should be allowed to get married. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people outside of the queer community don't know how gay marriage came to be a sort of central issue of the late 2000s and mid 2010s, you know? And it really was that cisgender, wealthy, white gays and lesbians sort of took all the energy that was around queer liberation and gay rights and pushed it into this one issue, right? Protections for children, anti-discrimination protections, protections for trans people. All of these things got pushed to the side so that for like 10 to 13 straight years, we just focus on marriage equality. And it was really, it was sort of an effort similar to the way that gay people are, you know, were being represented at the time on shows like Will and Grace, to make gays seem just like you, right? They're just like you, and they get married just like you, and they fall in love just like you, and they want 2.7 children and a white picket fence and a dog, and there's nothing scary about them. There's certainly nothing queer about them.
Right.
And also, most importantly, that they're mostly white. Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I think, can I piggyback on?
Please.
And I think it's really important to highlight that that was purposely done because there is a real root in racism, as there is in everything, in the queer community. And rich, white, cis, and we're saying cis a lot. So in case of your listeners don't know, when we all know what trans means. So just think of it as the opposite term. I'm not trans, so I'm a cisgendered male.
Right.
So it was a real opportunity for these transphobic, racist, white gay men, rich gay men, to take the focus, and lesbian and rich lesbian women, take the focus off of queer people who are not like everyone else, and to put it on queer people who are trying to be something they're not, first of all, and really take away from the people who started the movement, which were people of color, and specifically trans people of color.
Right.
And I think it's really important, you know, when we first started talking about marriage, whether it was something we wanted to do because of that history.
Right.
But like everything else, if we claim it and make it our own and make sure that all the other work we do in our lives is opposing that force that happened in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, that it's okay, because we're not being like everyone else. Our marriage is ours.
Yes.
And the way it works is the way it works for us. Yeah. And we don't need anyone to model after us. We don't need to be an example, because there are many ways to love.
Yeah.
And it's just in the definition of the word queer. Queer means different. It doesn't, you cannot have a queer movement and then exclude people from it.
Exactly.
You have to include everyone. So I think it's really important for us, even though we're getting married, to represent the opposite of that, and that we're not just feeding into that whole rhetoric from the 80s and 90s.
And I think that one of the things, for me anyway, and you tell me if you agree, Marco, but one of the things I've been thinking about since we got married is that, you know, one of the reason to marry a person, beyond the fact that you love them and you want to show everyone that you love them and you want to dance till 3 a.m. on tables, you know? Beyond that, and they were our own tables, which was kind of scary. But beyond that, you know, the reason to marry someone is so that when you say, I want to buy a house with this person, or I want to adopt a child with this person, or I would like this person to be able to visit me while I die in the hospital, right? Those wishes are, it is illegal not to honor those wishes. I believe that it should be illegal not to honor those wishes, no matter who the person is and how they are related to you. It is central to my understanding of what it means to be queer and what it means to be ethical in the world, that I don't have the right to say to someone, that relationship in your life is not as important as that other relationship in your life, or this relationship in my life.
Right.
And I think that when I realized that we were getting married because we love each other and we want to share all the stuff that we have and we want to share all of our life events, but that we could still believe in a world post-marriage, right? A world where all of our relationships are valuable, and that our marriage can be something we're doing and we're taking seriously while we fight for a different world where there's lots lots of respect given to all different kinds of relationships and all different kinds of families.
That's right.
It became a lot easier to sort of reconcile that troubled history, right? And to say, well, we're getting married because this is how we secure our love to each other in this world we live in. But that does not mean that we stop fighting for a world where all love is secure.
That's right.
No matter what form it takes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
because
right.
it's true. I think there's a really heavy focus on marriage in our culture, in all cultures. And sometimes the best relationships are friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes are special friends that you do special things with. And I've seen beautiful friendships like that, and like even if they're not, sexual or non-sexual, I've seen beautiful friendships that I think there's as much love as I've seen other people in like a marriage, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of that needs to be honored, and hopefully one day there'll be a ceremony for best friends one day. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like we are no one to exclude anyone.
Right.
And I think that you're talking about being a single and being a single, jumping back in the days post COVID and stuff. I think that our sort of cultural obsession with what we consider to be romantic love, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we have been sort of culturally indoctrinated to think is love with a capital L.
Mm-hmm.
And our obsession with marriage and our obsession with kids by a certain age and all of these like milestones that you grow up with as the markers of your success or failure produce loneliness in people that aren't lonely.
Yeah.
There are so many people I know who have so many wonderful relationships and bountiful love all around them, and they're having regular sex, and they should just be the happiest people in the world.
Right.
But because they are quote unquote single, they have been taught to feel lonely and to feel deficient. And the big question for us when we were thinking about getting married is, how do we conduct ourselves once we're married so that we don't play into a culture that makes people who aren't alone feel lonely?
Right. Right.
Yeah, and Daisy, between this is more of a personal experience. This is not my first time getting married. You know that.
Okay. No, I know. Absolutely.
And for me to make that decision a second time, it was easier this time. But what made it easier, that's a big part of it. But but to be honest, what made that easier was that in my first relationship, without going into too much detail, in that first marriage, I was really living up to things that I was taught to live up to. I was searching for things that I was taught to search for. And if I didn't have them or didn't want them, there was something weird about me. And that was the biggest clash, because I was trying to force a square into a circle hole. And once I let that go, there was a lot of self-growth, and after the whole thing happened. But once I was able to finally be like, hey, I'm queer, so I can have any kind of fucking relationship I want. And trust me, between my marriage, there was a single period. I did whatever the fuck I needed to do sexually, not, dating wise. And when I finally was able to write the rules and met someone who wanted to write the rules with me, and I was like, I'm not trying anything with you. We're just existing and creating something here that, hey, on the outside may look the same, but if you get to know us, it really is rooted in something different. Because like I said, I did what I was supposed to do before, and I was not happy. And now I'm doing things the way I want to do it, and I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Oh, I love them. I do.
We love you too.
We love you too.
My soul. It's crazy writing the rules, finding someone to write the rules with you. I've been married. You know this. And who that man was as a husband, I'm not going to give him a rate, but I'm going to give him a rate today as to who we are as parents, and we are beyond the 10. And I've actually announced that I convinced him. We were talking last night. He's going to come on the show, because I definitely want to give that open door to my listeners to know our evolution as human beings and as former husband and wife, and mostly as parents today. because it takes a lot of growth. But with that being said, it is calming to hear how it was easy for you this time to know that you were making such a beautiful decision in choosing to be married with this man who you love. I'm actually the type of woman who, for me, it's where I am today as far as the type of relationship that I want, the type of marriage that I want. I'm not one who looks at love in the way I used to, right? A husband is supposed to buy you these things, or your partner, it's anniversary and Valentine's Day is so huge. And what did he get you? And oh my God, what's the plan for the birthday? And where I am today in writing my rules, right? And people think I'm crazy, and that's fine. That's okay. I've actually said it multiple times, and I will never stop saying it. If in my home, in our home, my partner was to say, well, let's not dish out thousands of dollars for childcare. I'll stay home to take care of the kids, and I can manage this house. And if he happens to have his own business, then I see nothing wrong with that. There's been plenty of years where men have gone to the workforce and the women stay home and raise the kids and figure things out at home. I see nothing wrong if me writing the rules differently as an option. And if I find a significant other who wants to write those rules with me. Of course, if I was to say that to my very traditional father, he would look at me, and your Tio Marco, he will look at me like I'm fucking crazy, and his eyes would pop out. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Daisy? But I just believe that it's what we decide to write. It's what we decide that works for us. I don't look forward to so much of a marriage, only the piece of certain legal rights, right? Certain legal rights that would say,
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a say in certain things. I look forward to a partnership. I look forward to having a partner there who's going to be right here with me. And maybe sometimes I carry the 70% and he'll carry the 30%. And maybe sometimes it'll be the other way around. So to say of the writing of the rules, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I think in the time that we are today, regardless of what your understanding is with your significant other, we've heard it for so many years. Oh, communication is key, communication is key, communication is key. And people throw that shit around all the fucking time. But do people really understand what the fuck that means? And I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. There is something so deeper into the phrase. Communication is key. You know what I'm saying?
And talking, even when you don't want to talk, is important.
Right. So it's funny you say that, because I used to be of the mentality that I'm going to say hurtful shit so we could leave this to the morning. And then I was like, nah, you have to address things. Like, you have to be able to talk to your person. You should not have to leave shit to just brew. You know what I mean? Leave it cooking on the stove, because you're going to get fucking burned. Like, this is not going to fucking work. So I'm with you on that too. This is probably going to be like, well, damn, like, they've only been married for how many days? No, fuck y'all. For me, it's important because you guys have had your relationship in the means that they've been, and it's been working for you. And so going back to the point is, how do we do, are we supposed to do things different now that we're actually married? What is one of the things that for you guys, you would say you would do the same? And what is one of the things that you would do different now that you are married?
I think I can start with what I'll do different, because Saturday was magical in terms of our family. It really was a union of my family and Michael's family. And I really feel, even since then, in a couple of days, I've had, like the other day, I had a 45-minute conversation with my mother-in-law. And the way I would talk to my mom. So I think moving forward, if anything is different, is that I feel like his family is my family now, because of Saturday, because of that weekend with them. And I am going to call my new mom the way I call my regular mom, my regular mom,
my regular mom.
Like, what?
I love it.
What's the same though? I think today was really weird for both of us, because we have this wedding in our house on Saturday, and then we went off to this ridiculously ostentatious suites.
It was like for rich people. It was insane.
It was really rich people. Like when we were in the lobby of this hotel, like everyone around us is millennials, and I look at them like, oh, they just all got off flights, like they're all in t-shirts and joggers, and then I look and like every sneaker in that lobby was a Yeezy, and all the joggers were Versace, and I was just like, these are not my people. But you know, it like today, we're in our house and it's like a regular day. And the thing that I love about Marco and the thing that I love about living with Marco, and I have loved about living with Marco since we moved in together 3 years ago, is that we dwell really well together. We just kind of coexist really well. And like, there is a lot of, you know, I mean, there are fights and there's disagreements and there's discord, of course. But there's a lot of just like easy, seamless flowing. And for a while today, I was kind of perturbed. I was like, why doesn't everything feel different? Like, we got married, it was beautiful, we never stopped crying for 10 hours. And then I realized, and it took me all day to realize that, but eventually I did realize, and I kind of smiled to myself. I was like, well, nothing's different.
Yeah.
We just live in our house like we did before with our dog and our cat. And the only difference now is that besides the fact that I think that our families are more joined than they were, nobody can tell us shit. You know, we are Mr. and Mr. Abraham Fiaggos, and they can't do shit about it.
That's right. That's right. For me, I wanted to ask that question because, again, to the point of I cohabitated before I got married. And that's actually something I'm totally for. I think it's very important. And I think a lot of people may perceive it as, oh, well, nothing has changed. Like, we're still going to do the same shit. And it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe there is a feeling. Maybe there is something that just resonates to be a little different after the fact. Because for me, I don't think in my first experience, I don't think I didn't feel the change. I did feel the change. There was a change there. Besides the obvious that there was a divorce too, but there was a change. And, you know, that is something that I do look forward to also, because I am totally pro living together before marriage. I think it helps out so much.
I think that's really important. Yes. I agree with you.
Yes, I think it really teaches you a lot about yourself and a lot about this other person who you're choosing. Because I mean, nobody just accidentally ends up living with you. I've never heard a story like that. And if there is someone out there who accidentally ended up living with their spouse before they got married, please email the show, because I would love to talk to you guys. Because I've never heard of people just accidentally living together and then being happily married. But, you know, I am totally for it. And I'm so happy that you guys can even speak on that and say, like, you know, we were living together for 3 years, even before this moment in our lives and in our relationship. One last words from you guys to the...
I will add something in the honor of Raw Talk.
Yes.
Marriage week sex is fucking awesome.
Oh my God, marriage week sex. First of all, we've had marriage week sex like 35 times. And let me tell you, every single one of those 35 times was like the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Hi, cousin. Hi, cousin. How are you? Oh man, your aunt is gonna kill me. This is amazing. Wait, so you guys have been married how many days already? Since Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Yeah.
All right.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, so let's do the math. 4 days. 35 divided by 4.
Roughly.
He's gonna do it. I confessed a few episodes ago. I'm not well with long math, and I can't stand Common Core.
Yeah, about 8.75 times.
Okay, 8.7.
And that 0.75, you know, those are the times we get close, but we don't quite.
Okay, so
because you know, 8 times already.
So with that being said, my audience, Double Dose of Raw Talk listeners, this is how the fuck you know we are family. Because if it's not masturbation, it is actual marriage week sex. Damn it. And this is what makes me so proud to let you guys in on what my family sounds like. Sounds, because y'all can't see us yet, but this is what my family sounds like, and it makes me so happy to know that my cousins have had nothing but amazing marriage week sex, and it's only day 4. Okay.
And it makes us happy to know that you know, your masturbation's up 50%. That's great.
I'm preparing
the world needs more masturbation, less war.
Yes. I'm preparing my body for when the moment comes that I'm actually, you know, unleashing sin the right way as she deserves. And I just don't want her to be afraid in that moment, because, you know, she needs to show up and show out. So she needs to keep it together. And
yeah, you can't kiss, so she's really got to.
She really got to do all the kissing. She got to do all the kissing, guys. All right. I made Michael cover his eyes. Before we close out this show, I wanted to just remind you guys that if you have any desire to start your own podcast, or if you're thinking about relaunching or rebranding your current podcast, this is your chance. Please go to my show description, Idea to Launch Academy. This is exactly how I am here, and you guys are tuning in. So again, self-paced course, 30 days, you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too. Idea to Launch Academy. It's in my show description. Just click on the link and get started. There is no better time than now for you to do this. Go click that link. Hurry. So, one last word from you guys. You know, with the concept of the movements that we are seeing in our city right now, in the country, one last word that you could give my listeners so they can know what our sentiments are, what our present moment is when it comes to that.
That's a great question. And I think what's important right now is to remember, especially since it's about to be a month since the original George Floyd murder, is that wasn't a phase, guys. Keep doing the work. Keep educating yourselves. I think that is the best way that we can change or leave the path so there could be a generation after us that does make changes. And I think that just remember to be inclusive. Black Lives Matter include Black trans lives matter. And we need to let go of this toxic masculinity that exists in our community and just do the work for but not exclude. Just be inclusive. Don't ever exclude anyone, because you would never like to be excluded yourself.
And I want to say, from the perspective of a white person, to, you know, white listeners, if you aren't constantly engaging the other white people in your life, you are complicit. Every day that you choose not to call out or call in white people that you know and love, you are complicit. And the only way that white supremacy gets any closer to abolition, or, you know, to coming down, is if white people make themselves really uncomfortable every day. It gets easier. Start with one conversation, then make it 2, then make it 3, then make it constant. Because there is nothing else in your life, if you are a white American, that is worth your fucking time to talk about, except the fact that you are a white American.
Right. Absolutely. Ooh, that would a gem in a word. There we go. All right, guys. So this pretty much brings me to my end. I have some notes here and I went through all of them, guys. Y'all, let me just give them a shout out once more. Again, not only because they became one and they have just an amazing love, but also because I don't think it's easy for people to understand the platform that I have. When I initiated this, the whole concept of Raw Talk was not limited to anything. And one of my main key components is for ourselves, for my guests, and for anybody who's listening to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I love that Michael put that out there about being uncomfortable, because that's exactly what this platform is about. You know, in the world we live in, we do need to continue being comfortable with being uncomfortable with a lot of the shit that we're dealing with, that we're seeing, that we're still living, and that some of us are still protesting against till this day. with that being said, I want to congratulate you guys once again for this amazing moment in your lives. I am looking forward to the next 361 days till the vow renewal. But who's counting? I'm already counting. They've already been married 4 days, so I'm at 361. And I want to believe and have a lot of hope that maybe August wedding will happen. And even if it doesn't, maybe we will be able to see each other again. I miss my family. It's very, very heartbreaking that we have not been able to be together. He just wants to say hi. It's cool. It's we have not been able to be together, and I want to leave this on this note because it's something that, again, I've spoken to so closely with Christina, Marco's aunt, my other cousin, because I am her maid of honor to her wedding. And one of the things we said the other day is, I don't think we're ever again going to take for granted having an opportunity to see the family. You know, we're always so busy. Our schedules are always so all over the place. And we always tend to say, oh, next time, next time, next time. And I think what we've definitely taken from this is we need to make every time count, and we need to make it one way or another, because it's been hurtful to not be able to know that I can see you guys and be able to have a moment with you guys, or even us to so much share a hug. You know what I mean? So I love you guys to death. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you for having us on. That's so sweet of you. And also not congratulations, but it's really cool, the Netflix documentary about your dom. I think it's really cool. I also want to thank you as an essential worker.
Oh, thank you.
It has not gone unlooked. We really admire you in our house, and just thank you too.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, y'all. Thank you so much. The support is real. And that's one thing I will say with our generation and our family, Marco. I think our generation knows what it is to support each other and to love each other. You know, it's not to knock our older generation. It's just a little key point to say, like, our generation just gets it a little bit more than the older generation does. And I think that's what's amazing about us.
Yeah. And one final note, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
That I think will really touch you is that when my grandma Aida, which is Christina's mom and my grandma, everyone, was saying that night in here that it felt like an Olguita house party. And that made me so happy. Hey, stop.
He's emotional.
That made me so happy. And I just want to say that I can't wait till I share that and make that, you know, what better way to see family than to have house parties in my house.
Yes.
So I can't wait.
Yes. You know,
in honor of our great grandma.
That's right. So I definitely want to add to that because you said it. So I did see my aunt Ada, Christina's mother, Marco's grandmother. I did see her standing there by your side. I'm going to try not to get emotional. I saw her standing there by your side, seeing you get married. And one thing that this family is so amazing is that we've been able to have our seniors present for these amazing moments in our lives. And for her to say that it felt like it was an Olguita moment, for y'all who don't know, and maybe someday I'll share her picture so you guys can see her, that was my grandmother. And one of the things that we cherish is just house parties where we always used to just be together and dance, even if it was just amongst us. And we always found a reason to celebrate something. When I saw, and I said it earlier, to see your mom and Christina dance, to see that living room like that, it's definitely the feeling that resonated in my heart. It felt like it was a house party, how we grew up having it. And
exactly,
you know, let me just give you the overview, right? Just think of a living room in the third floor of a 6-story building, 3 bedrooms, and about 50 people fitting in the living room.
Yeah.
That's how we grew up, dancing and partying, and that's our childhood. And it is definitely the feeling that I got, and I cannot wait and look forward to coming to the first house party that you guys throw. And being able to join you guys with that. Y'all got emotional. I'm not going to cry though. I'm going to stop right there. This has been another weekend, another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. I am your host, Miss D. It's been a pleasure letting you guys in on this little gem. And there goes my boo. He's saying bye too. I will give you guys another one next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this week's episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And when you leave the review, tell your friends, and then tell your friends to tell their friends, and keep telling them to keep telling all their friends. Nothing makes me happier than to read the reviews that you guys are leaving and the feedback I am receiving from my listeners. I have received suggestions on topics they would love for me to cover, and trust that I am reading those reviews and I am reading those suggestions and I am listening. So please feel free to contact me on my social media pages and the show's email. All my information is in the show description. Nothing would make me happier than to hear from you guys and to know what it is that you would love from my platform to cover on some raw talk. So let's talk about it. Talk to you next week. Bye.